We are at the forefront of many innovative and exciting things developing in the world of senior living. With Tim Mallad, CEO of Forefront Living, as our guide, this show will shine a light on how older adults can embrace these changes to live active, happy, fulfilling, and thriving lives. Through discussions with senior living and hospice professionals, architects and designers, and people of all ages, will help today's seniors envision the art of the possible and take steps toward achieving the future of their dreams. Welcome to At the Forefront.
Hello, I'm Tim Mallad, CEO of Forefront Living, and welcome to At the Forefront. Excited today for our guest, Christy Cashman. Christy was actually the keynote speaker at our 2024 Each Moment Matters Luncheon. Christy is an author and mother, I would also say very good friend, who has a diverse background in film, encompassing producing, acting, and screenplay writing. Christy also has a debut novel called The Truth About Horses, which was the subject of her discussion with us at our luncheon. And she's currently working on her second novel, Beulah, and her third children's book. See if I get the title right. The Cat Named Peanut Shrimp Cookie Fry Muffin Who Lives on Staniel K. Welcome, Christy Cashman.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. And you did get the title right. Well done.
Interesting title. Can you tell us a little bit about that title? I'm curious.
About the children's book? Yeah, yes. My dog, meanwhile, is trying to eat the muffin off of the plate in my gazebo here. So that little story came from something that really happened. My husband and I were on Staniel Key, and we were in this rental house on a little canal. And I noticed when I showed up, he had gotten there a couple days before me, and I noticed when I showed up that there was a little orange cat on the porch. And it looked like it had, kind of like that sort of sickly, kind of pot belly, but starving at the same time look, and malnutrition, I guess. And so, of course, the first thing I wanted to do was feed it. And so I said, Jay, what do we have? And he goes, oh, I fed the cat yesterday. He likes peanut butter. I said, oh, great. He likes peanut butter. I'll give him, so I went in, got him some more peanut butter. He ate it right up and then took off. And then when we would go out to eat, I would bring home a little extra food for him. And he kept eating and kept, coming back, of course. And then I asked the manager of the property what this cat's story was. And he said that basically the cat went door to door down the little canal to all of the different houses eating food. And so I decided to call him all the different names of what he was eating: muffin, shrimp, cookie, whatever you said.
It would be very interesting if I was named that way. I could really have an interesting title cover, and I think it's
a long name.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's really interesting how that chance meeting with a cat resulted in a book. And I would say,
I thought it was really a cute story because it showed people's compassion, and it also showed the cat was its own character, going door to door, acting like, oh yeah, I'm your cat today, but moving on to the next house and being an opportunist. And it ended up not being a he, by the way. It was a female who was pregnant.
Well,
that's the end of the story. Is that the
that
baby
explains the pot belly then, right?
Hence the pot belly.
Speaking of chance meetings, I would say the two of us met very much, I would say sort of by chance. And I think that is just an interesting story. And maybe you could tell us about that meeting and how it eventually resulted in you joining us here in Dallas as keynote speaker.
Well, you and I met through Jane Seymour, really, right? At the Horatio Alger Award in DC. And I was so impressed by that event. I thought that was really very cool. And, little did I know that we would have a conversation that sort of dove kind of deep very quickly. And I think I told you about my book. And I think after that, all I know is that I received a text from Sherry Engel, or a call, and she said you were considering me to be a keynote speaker. And I was like, wait, what? How did that happen? But I'm so thrilled. Really just, it was so special being there, and especially touring the T. Boone Pickens Hospice Center and meeting the people there, Marlene and Melora. And it really touched me when I got there and saw what it was all about. It's different when you look at a website or you hear about something or read about something. It's so different than actually visiting it in person, and I think we do less and less of that nowadays. I think we keep ourselves a little separated, especially when it comes to things like end of life and that topic. It's easier to say, look at a website or read a blurb about it and write a check and say, here you go, and not really take it in and let it affect you. We don't allow a lot of things to affect us, and I think that we suffer a little bit because of that. And so allowing that experience to affect me is maybe the best thing I've done for myself all year.
And we'll talk a little bit more about that in our second segment. Going back to when we met, and I'll give you the other side of the story as things would happen to be. You were talking about your book, The Truth About Horses. You were talking about themes and what was happening in the book. At the same time, we were looking for a speaker, and I remember speaking to our mutual friend Sherry and Jane in saying that we were looking for a speaker, and it was, boy, if we could find somebody like Christy, wouldn't that be great? So, because the themes in the book, there's a protagonist, a 14-year-old girl named Reese, who faces numerous challenges, and a lot of it is to do with grief and loss and relationships. And it was very inspiring that night in conversation. It was inspiring to read the book, inspiring to meet you. Can you tell us a little bit about Reese and that journey?
Yeah, so like a lot of fiction, it starts with a tragedy, and the character has to understand the new rules to the world after a tragedy. And her experience is that she's lost her mother, and that has been something that obviously turns her world upside down. And in her, aside from that, she's on her own grieving path, and her father is on his own grieving path, and they sort of go like this. They just sort of, in some ways, abandon each other because they don't know how to relate to each other in grief. And the story is really about them finding their way back to each other. They navigate it. It's a big mess because grief is messy, life is messy, and art is messy. I mean, when I was writing my book, I had so many messy drafts before I had something that was more streamlined. And there's a great expression that says mess, 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 art. And I think that's a lot about life. It's, all of the different things that we experience in life, especially loss and grief, are really, really messy. But it is just as much a part of life as all of the other phases.
Yeah, I know from subsequent conversations that while the book is fictitious, some of the inspiration comes from real events in a real place for you. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, feelings are universal, I mean, no matter where you grow up, no matter who you are, no matter where you live, no matter how much money you have, feelings are universal. And so I felt like it was my job as an artist in this book to be able to set a stage where a character went through a myriad of feelings in a believable way. And I think that the believable way was that I know horses and I know how to write about the world of horses, and I had to do some research, but it wasn't like I had to pour myself into a lot of research in order to make it believable, because I know the world, and I can speak horse. and so, my inspiration was really about being able to explore all those feelings in a novel.
And the novel is soon to become perhaps a series, I understand. And can you tell us a little bit about that and with whom you're working on that with?
Yeah, well, Jane Seymour optioned the material, and she is working on getting it to various producers who would be interested. And we've had a couple of different interested folks, and it looks like it's going to be a series as opposed to just a film, which is really exciting to me, because I did think about a little bit about when I was writing, as much as I tried to put a movie out of my mind and just write as good of a novel as I could. I think there was still something in the back of my mind, knowing that this was a very visual story, that I was writing in a very visual way, because that's how I write. And I believe that, movies and things have influenced authors in that way. And so, knowing that I was writing something visual, I also felt like, well, if it's in 3 parts, it's easy enough to think that each part could easily be 2 episodes or more. And so I think that was in the back of my mind, that, a 6-part series would be pretty cool. We'll just put that out there in the universe and see what happens.
So, which key elements are you most excited about to see either on film or in a series? Is there something that you're really looking forward
That's
to?
an easy answer. Of course, the wild horses, the mystical herd, I think, is what I'm most excited to see, because I can just see them. It's actually foggy here in Chatham right now. I can't normally, you can see straight across the bay so easily. There's this big blanket of fog that just came in, and I can just so see the horses coming out of the fog, coming, and in the book, there's dust that's described in the story, because she and her father are driving through a storm, and they're in the Badlands, and there's all kinds of dust, and so coming out of the dust, coming out of the fog, just all of a sudden looking like they're just, are you seeing something? Is it real? And then having them come at you and come closer and closer and closer, and then there they are. I think that's pretty cool.
What do you want viewers, what do you want us to take away from the book and the series?
I think that the theme of the wild horses was so important to me. And I think that really what that was the attempt at saying, asking the question as opposed to answering it. Like, are we more than just these physical beings on this earth, and once we die, and that's it? Or is there another realm? Is there another way of looking at life that makes us really understand that we are spiritual beings as well, and there is part of our spirit? This is just maybe 10% of who we are, I mean, I know it's hard to think of it that way. And I feel like that was something that I wanted to incorporate, or not incorporate, but like I said, just plant a seed. I think in a novel, you don't answer questions, you plant seeds to have people think and wonder and come up with their own interpretation. And that's kind of what I was posing, I think, when I did that.
Wonderful. Christy, thank you for joining us for this segment of At the Forefront. We'll be talking to you again shortly. And thank you to everyone who is watching for joining us at the Forefront.